Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones continues his elite play this season against the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for listening to the Locked On Colts podcast, your daily podcast covering the Indianapolis Colts. Reminder that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily over on Amazon Music, so make sure you're checking that out. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like the players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda Move and Be Moved. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I am joined today by Ben Boris at Colts Film Room over there on social media. You guys know him, you love him, does some really great work breaking down the Colts. I consider him my brother in arms when it comes to breaking down this Colts film. And last year we were in the trenches. This year we are celebrating just a fantastic year on both sides of the ball for the Colts. The Colts have the number 2 offense in EPA per play, the number 6 defense in EPA per play. They've just been fantastic. So we're going to talk all about it today. Offense, defense against the Las Vegas Raiders, and then just our overall takes on this fantastic year so far for the Colts. But Ben, we have to start offense by talking about Daniel Jones. And I told you before we got into just starting this episode that it feels like Daniel Jones in a way is getting into that Phillip Rivers, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, even if there were podcasts back then. I don't know what the early 2000s looked like back then, but
drive time radio.
Maybe. Right. Drive time radio. It kind of gets to the point though, where it's like, what more can you say about this guy after games, where like I never talked, like in 2018, I never wrote about Andrew Luck, because we knew what Andrew Luck was giving you. I never wrote about Phillip Rivers in 2020 because, like, yeah, he's going to be pretty. There'll be some ebbs and flows here and there, but for the most part, you're going to get some good play. And through 5 games, it feels like we're getting that with Daniel Jones, where it's like we can nitpick some overthrows, we can compliment some quick hitters that he did and some great decisions, but for the most part, it's like Daniel Jones was Daniel Jones, and he led the Colts to 40 points, and they won a game on Sunday.
It's unbelievable, and I think it's funny because, like, during this quarterback competition and all the talk about that, I feel like the narrative around Daniel Jones, which was a little bit weird when you consider his pass play, was he's going to be the stabilizing presence under center. And that's everything that he's been through 5 weeks. It has been I think what's really cool about this offense, and Daniel Jones obviously being the facilitator and all this, is they have so many ways to beat you. They can beat you in the run game. That's always going to help. Their offensive line for me, was the story in this game. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yep.
Incredible. And obviously we're seeing what Daniel Jones looks like. And I think there's probably something to be said of like, hey, when I drop back and I know I'm going to be protected and I know I have really good skill players that is going to make you defend every blade of grass, we're going to be pretty successful. And I think you're clearly seeing a confident guy back there. Like, he drops back with a play like this is going to work. It's been incredible to watch. I totally agree with you. It's like, I'd love to come up with like some unique analysis, but I feel like we've already said it already. Like, he is playing incredible football. Even me, who was optimistic, especially when I got to see him, see the film of the first preseason game when he came in versus Baltimore. I thought he played really well. I was like, oh, I'm actually like really excited for this, to be quite honest with you. He's exceeding anyone's expectations, potentially maybe the staff's, potentially maybe even his own. I don't know. It's been incredible to watch, and like, it feels like it's going to end, but it never will. It's like, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, you have to give so much credit to Shane Steichen, because I remember Jake Arthur, the typical co-host on this show here, he's out today, but he told me after the meetings in the summer when they talked to Shane that him and like Stephen Holder and stuff, when they were talking to Shane about Daniel Jones, you could see just Steichen's face light up in terms of just how Jones gets into the film, how much effort and work he puts into what he does. And you could see that was something that Steichen really valued. And Steichen was over the moon about a player like Daniel Jones when nobody else really was in the league and here in this market. Like, he was insanely high on this guy. And maybe he didn't expect this level of input or output from him.
Yeah.
But I don't think he expected that much less. I think he really did expect a really good season from Daniel Jones. And we're seeing it reward him this year. So I mean, credit to Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard for believing in Jones. Credit to Jones for playing so well and playing confidently. And again, we've talked about it multiple times, even when you and I have been on here, that so much of this offense is just giving Jones all the information he needs pre-snap. Jones taking that information, plugging into his head and saying, I know where to go with the ball now, and then just getting the ball out to the playmaker that makes the most sense. So in a way, it's like Steichen's hitting the easy button for him, but Jones has to make that be the easy button, if that makes sense. It's like the easy button's only there because Jones is diagnosing things at a high level. So it really has, in all facets, just been this perfect marriage between quarterback and head coach and skill position players and offensive line. And the Colts, I said a couple weeks ago, like, this is going to be a top 10 offense this year because they just have too many weapons. Should I move that up to top 5 offense? Like 6 straight touchdown drives.
Yeah. It's like they have such a good formula working them. First of all, that Jonathan Taylor's playing like the offensive player of the year. But what's crazy is like he really did his work in the red zone. I mean, he had like 66 yards or something like that, like, which for him is like not really that great of a day. Like at this point, we're getting to the point with Jonathan Taylor where we expect triple digits. Like at that point, just how good he's been. And like what's crazy for me is they're so efficient on third down, which is like, I think about this because Bruce Arians talks about this in his book and some of the interviews he does too, of like quarterbacks really in this league, the ones that get talked about are good on third down and they're good in 2 minute. And I think we probably haven't seen as much 2 minute from Jones, just given the nature of like the blowouts in some of these games. But like he's been fantastic on third down, like another really, really good day on third down. And that's what's winning him games. Like when you sustain drives, your defense isn't tired. That's also helping them. I think that's an underrated part in terms of time of possession, which was like admittedly a massive issue when they were chasing explosives early last year. They would go for all these deep shots. Well, the reality is like, even though Alec Pierce can catch a lot of deep balls and Anthony Richardson can certainly throw them, those are just naturally low percentage throws. So like they're keeping the offense on schedule. I think they're pretty much learning from all the things that went wrong last year in terms of just all this obsession of explosive plays, but they literally couldn't stay on the field. So I think that's helped in their favor. And then like, it's got to be fun to be in this staff when you can go attack a defense in like a billion different ways because you have guys that can do different things. Like I think we saw in this game, they put up 40 and like the game plan, if I could summarize it in one sentence, was let's lift coverage with Ashton Doolin and Will Mallory. And let's get Josh Downs the ball because Devin White isn't going to tackle him or cover him in space. And like, that's crazy that's one way they could have attacked the defense, but they could go into a matchup and be like, hey, we still have the best running back in the league. You can't stop the run. They can find Pittman on plays. Tyler Warren is been, if you could describe a missing piece to an offense, Tyler Warren has absolutely been that. So like, it's really fun to see. It's probably got to be incredibly fun to be a coaching staff game planning each week.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the overall themes we're seeing on offense in the final segment, but just to put a bow on this game, we talked about Daniel Jones having a good game. I would honestly call this like a B game from him because he did probably leave about 65, 70 yards on the field with some missed throws. But still, like a B game is still, I mean, he's an MVP candidate right now. So a B game is still like a Pro Bowl level game from him. But the other player we really got to highlight is Josh Downs, like you mentioned there. A lot of this game plan was we dare you guys to try to tackle Josh Downs, and a guy who's had a relatively quiet year so far. I don't think he's been as quiet as some people have said because his role is just get first downs. It's not put up gaudy numbers, but relatively quiet numbers from what we've expected. He was the focal point of the offense in this game. And one of the game-changing moments came early on that 3rd and 12 that he converted for a first. The spinorama that he did on the defender there to get the first. And that was like a precursor of what was going to come the rest of the game. Like, he was fantastic after the catch, and he's so underrated after the catch because he's not a guy who will turn a 5-yard catch into a 50-yard catch, but he'll turn every 5-yard catch into a 9-yard catch, a 10-yard catch, an 11-yard catch. It keeps you on schedule, keeps you on track, and it converts third downs. And, the Colts were 8 of 10 on third downs on Sunday, 80%. A lot of that had to do with Josh Downs just being awesome.
It's like they have different ways to do it because like Warren has that same thing, but like for him, it's like he's going to fall forward and he's going to gain 5-10. Pittman, I think, is a little that's one of the things I think Pittman does well too. Like he'll catch a 5-yard short in route and he can lower his pads and turn that into an 8-9 yard route. Josh Downs is like slippery. So like you really can't catch him. They ran him on some choices, which has been just like his staple through 2 years. They had him on, different short and intermediate routes, sits, different stuff like that. And it's like with that style of defense, they try and keep everything in front of them. It's not necessarily like the Pete Carroll Seattle 3. Like that's not necessarily what this defense is. But there was a lot to be taken in the underneath portions of the game, and the Colts found a spot to do that. And I think it's also like, this is a little bit changing gears, but like we have to like credit Braden Smith and just these tight ends that are blocking Max Crosby. They held him to 3 pressures. I think that was the story of the game. Like Braden Smith had a fantastic game. Shane Steichen obviously had a plan for him, just like some of the stuff they were doing. Mo Alley Cox and Drew Ogletree, I think, have just been unsung heroes for the way that they've blocked Benito and Max Crosby in these 2 matchups. And it's just everyone has a role, and it's just like today it was Josh Downs Day. Even Doolin showed up. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. It's an offense where everybody eats, and everyone's enjoying their eating this year. So we're going to talk more about the offense in the final segment, but we do want to transition here to defense and how the Colts defense coming off of, I don't even call it a rough game against the Rams, but the stat sheet looked rough against the Rams. They bounced back in a big way, had multiple turnovers, held the Raiders to just 6 points. Lou Anarumo's defense is getting after these bad offenses this year, and we're going to talk about it here in just a second. But first, this episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's a sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in the community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Jake has a recommendation here. Guacho's Fire Express runs on Square, and he gives it the Jake Arthur stamp of approval. So make sure you're checking that out. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. And this episode is also brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and they keep moving that game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward for the Colts, Segun Olubi's blocked punt that moved the game forward, and it got the Colts the 2-score lead early in this game. So Colts special teams making a big impact early. And of course, I can't hesitate to call out Segun Olubi. That's my favorite player on the team right there. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like that, there are more to every highlight, and there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back talking about this Colts defense and how, again, I don't think they had a bad game against the Los Angeles Rams. I even made a whole video. It's like a 30-minute video on my personal YouTube channel being like, let's relax about the Colts pass defense. I really think that there's some good things here. It's just Matt Stafford is hard to play against. Very hard to play against. And we saw it kind of bounce back and come back in a big way against an offense that just doesn't have a lot figured out. Yes, Brock Bowers was out in this game. Yes, Michael Mayer was out in this game. And it did limit some things that the Raiders wanted to do. But at the end of the day, I think this Colts defense is getting to where they need to be. There are still some issues. There are still some gaps on the defense that need guys to step up and some holes that need to be filled. But it's a competitive defense. They take the football away. They tackle really well. I think this is the type of defense that you can staple to a really good offense and be a playoff caliber team or a contending team in the NFL. What are your thoughts there, Ben?
Yeah, I think it's funny because we talked kind of off air about this as well, just of last week, where it's like I kind of always expected them to start slow. I think it's really hard when you move from a Gus Bradley defense was a little bit more simplistic in nature to Lou Anarumo's, which gives you a ton of answers, but you have to be smart enough and learn the defense enough to get into those answers and create the havoc that you want to create. You don't just do that overnight. So I thought they were always going to start off a little bit slow, but I think they're exceeding my expectations. They're allowing 17 points a game. That is winning defense in the NFL. I think that there's the weaknesses. I don't think we're breaking any news. Like I think everyone at home can kind of see where where people are trying to attack this defense. But you're right. I agree. When you look at the Rams game, it's like there's some times where you like just have to tip your cap to Matt Stafford. He made some plays. I think the Devontae Adams touchdown was probably one of his better ones, where it's just like there's no good defense for the perfect offense. I truly believe that. Like on every play, the offense should be able to. That's just the way that I think. That there's no defense out there that should be able to stop an offense if you make the perfect throw and the perfect play. And that just happened to the Colts at some points. I think it's really interesting. I think they're still kind of searching for their identity a little bit, where like they're still trying to figure out what they're really good at, what their kind of weak points are. And I think that'll happen just as the year goes on. But like you can kind of start to see things clicking, particularly on the back end, that they're having guys. It's really, like I told you, I think one of the things that's struggled with the pass defense is they've just started different guys in different spots. Like they haven't rolled out the same secondary yet. So I think that you hope for good health there. I think the safeties have been great. Nick Cross is having a really, really good year. I think he's an extension candidate for sure. I mean, I'm nothing but pleased so far, but I think it's like what we're seeing now isn't what the finished product is going to be.
Yeah, I've always said this. I think this is going to look a lot better come December, and especially going into like next season when they bring a lot of these guys back, and Lou Anarumo is likely still the guy. I think that we're going to see this defense even take another step forward, even though defense is hard to project from year to year. But I think the more that they work in this system, the better these guys are going to be. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. And I think it's really interesting because Alan Pinkett over on our squad show, former NFL running back, he always talks about how this Colts defense feels very bend, don't break. And I agree with that to the extent where they don't give up many big plays. Outside of Mekhi Blackman's feet getting in the way, they don't give up many big plays on this defense, which, again, we were joking before we jumped on. It's like we need him to fall down in zone coverage, not press man. That's the worst time to fall down. Like, please stop falling down and press man.
It's funny that, like, the two times that he's fell, it's been in situations where it's like it's so obvious that it's become an easy play for the offense.
Right. The two times you can't fall are the times that he's fallen. But besides that, they don't give up many big plays because they are tackling very well, because they are rallying to the football really well. And it ends up looking bend, don't break. But I think what's different from the way the Colts have run defense in the past with Matt Eberflus and Gus Bradley, where their whole philosophy was, we're going to run the same cover concepts on most plays. We're going to rally to the football, tackle you short, punch the ball out. If you have to go 15 plays down the field to score on us, we're going to have 15 opportunities to punch that ball out or get an interception on a tip ball or something like that. With Lou Anarumo, though, they do subscribe to that a little bit, where, again, we're going to rally, we're going to tackle, we're going to force you into long drives, but he throws a lot of change-ups in there. There's a lot of change-ups. There's a lot of curveballs. So, you'll be getting out there for a 2nd and 6 after a productive run, and you'll get this 6-man pressure concept, or you'll get the safety blitzing off the backside to try to force you into that negative play and push you behind the sticks into their pass coverage they want you to. You'll be getting zone for most of drive, and then they'll throw this press man coverage with 2 high safeties or with a robber in the middle of the field that really just muddies the pocket and muddies what's going on. And we saw that in this game where the Raiders had pretty good success rate on offense, but when the Colts needed a play, they would throw in that one blitz. They would throw in this man coverage thing. They threw in the trap coverage, the palms coverage that got the interception from Mekhi Blackman. That was just a great change up to what the Colts were seeing in that game. All game long, they were getting hit with those hitches and those outbreakers, throw in that palms coverage to trap it and take that ball away. Had 2 guys there to take that interception away. Just little things like that. So it's like it's bend, don't break, but we're not going to bend and just let you bend us. We're going to also throw in these changeups, throw in these curveballs that can take the ball away, force negatives, and get you off track. And I think that's where this defense is finding success right now.
Yeah, I think the other thing, too, is like Lou Anarumo wants to dictate what you do. And I think that we saw that. I thought, watching the game live, like one of the things that was almost like confusing is how many times they tried to test Charvarius Ward.
Yeah, that's insanely stupid.
I'm looking at this. I'm like, what are we doing? I almost got frustrated for Raiders fans because that's like the wrong way to attack this defense. Like Charvarius Ward is obviously having a great year, but like Mekhi Blackman isn't necessarily having this like that's where I would go. Like that's the thing that I think that is different. I think the other thing too is like Lou Anarumo wants to get you to the check down as quick as possible. I think that's the difference where like, Gus Bradley, we're going to play our cover 3. You can find your cover 3 beaters. We'll rally tackle. That's kind of our bend but don't break type style. I think here it's like, how can we just like change the picture on you post snap? How can we have press man coverage. That's what they want to do. They want to be a press man team. I think they're working through that. How can we disrupt the timing and get you just to the check down? That's not open. Let me get you to the check down. And I think that that's really been, and then they'll get that change up where they can like get those kind of game breaking plays. I think Lou has been really good from like considering some of the like clear weaknesses. I think it's funny because like last year there wasn't like necessarily like a, guy that the defense just had to keep throwing at because you could throw at everyone. Like there was just all this space and all this coverage. I think it's almost like an advantage in some ways where that's how they're going to attack you. They're going to throw there. So how can we fix that? And I think that's helped them as well. And I think like there's some guys just stepping up. I think I want to bring this take up because I want to run this by you before I just recklessly say that. I think Grover Stewart is having a career year on passing downs. I'm not sure that I've ever seen him like in terms of like he's never going to like rally a bunch of sacks and pressures, but like the tip on the Latu play was incredible. I know the Colts, the Pat McAfee show said it today. They thought they had an advantage there with how Geno releases the ball. They thought they could get their hands on some. They certainly did. I've really been impressed with him. And like, I know this pass rush is a work in progress. I'm sure that's probably a missing piece there, but like he's been such a big part and I hope that he's healthy because I think he was a big part of the game as well.
Yeah, we'll segue that into the final segment when we're talking more big picture stuff. But I will say in particular about that tip ball, that was one of the biggest plays of the game because that was a touchdown. They beat the Colts with a high-low concept there, and the low defender carried, I think, an outbreaking route when he should have sunk. They both rallied to the outbreaking route, which left the deep dig open. So that was an easy touchdown, an uncontested touchdown. Instead, it's a big interception that changes the flow of the game. Colts go down and score with no time left after that. And instead of it being a one-score game or nearly a tied game, it's or I guess like it would be like a 4-point game. Instead, it's a massive, like almost 3-score lead.
They've had a couple of those too. I think Miami, there was a couple of those as well. I can think of a couple. There was maybe like one, not necessarily like a game-breaking play per se, but like they've definitely had some of those where like it looks like, hey, that someone's busted a coverage, but someone makes a play somewhere else. And I just think that like that's where you see this defense start to get better and better each week. But it's good that they're making plays. They're just making plays.
Complementary defense, complementary offense, complementary football from this Colts team. They've been playing just some great football, and that's how you get to 4-1 in the NFL. But coming up, we're going to talk about some big picture stuff: offense, defense, special teams, just kind of our overall thoughts on this Colts team through 5 games. I know they haven't played the toughest strength of schedule, but they're making the most of it by killing everyone that's not on their level. So I think we're feeling good, but we're going to talk about it more here in just a second. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding in on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you guys waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we're back talking about this Colts team. They're sitting pretty at 4-1, coming off a 34-point victory at home over the Las Vegas Raiders. There's not much to critique about this team. I think there's just stuff to praise right now. And I want to go back more into the offense for sure, Ben, but I did want to just throw this little thing out there about just the special teams play and the coaching on that end this year. I think Brian Mason has been an unsung hero for the Colts this season. Yeah. Think about how many times they've stolen points from opponents. I mean, the Denver Broncos game, they only win because of the special teams unit, because of the drawing the leverage call, getting that retry at the kick, and winning the game because of that. That's the first time they've impacted it. The block kick against the Tennessee Titans was a 6-point swing right before halftime where the Colts went down and got 3 of their own, and that essentially put that game away right there. And then I think the defining moments in this past game that really contributed to this being an absolute beatdown were the block punt early by Shegu Alubi, and then the kick out of bounds, which, I mean, that is outstanding coaching to know something the rest don't even know. That when you kick it out of bounds, it moved them back to the 25. It made the Raiders have to settle for a 59-yard kick, and they missed it. And the Colts ended up gaining points on that, essentially. Again, they took points off the board from the Raiders. So special teams have been the hidden gems for the Colts this year. Their kick coverage has been better. Their punt team has been great when they punt. They're like everything's been good on special teams this year. So while we're praising Syke and while we're praising Lou Anarumo, I want to give Brian Mason a little bit of a shout out there.
I also think that I just want to throw this in quickly. The Rams, some of the knuckleball stuff they were doing, I mean, Anthony Gould was all over that, and that killed the Eagles and some of the other teams too. I think Brian Mason absolutely deserves a lot of credit for some of just like these small, and they don't come across as small things. Like you look at the box score, it's like, okay, what did special teams really do, to help us out? But like these little things that have won them games and contributed to winning them games. I mean, that's when you're locked in, like just as a team, like when you can have all these little things go like contribute, and it's not just like, hey, like Jonathan Taylor ran for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards, and that's really why we won the game. It's like everyone is doing their part, and I think that's how you get to those kind of a 4-1 with 3 extremely convincing wins.
Yeah, and to go, I mean, we can say offense and defense in this regard, but offense, I think in particular, the way they're beating you is just so many different ways. And this is why I think this offense is not only sustainable, but it's sustainably like at a high level. I don't think this, like for all the early season talk, like this is the Saints again. Obviously, that's not the case. This team is going to be, but like even for some of the talk, like even what I was doing like a week or two ago, saying like, oh yeah, they'll be like the 8 to 12 ranked offense by the end of the season. They'll come back to earth a little bit. I don't know how much this can come back to earth unless they suffer injuries on offense, because it's just such a well-oiled machine right now. And like you alluded to in the first segment, it's not just beating you one way. And it's not even just beating you with like one personnel grouping either. Week 1 and week 5 here, we saw a lot of 13 personnel. All of a sudden, 13 personnel is this huge thing the Colts are running. In between there, smashed in there, a lot of 12 personnel. We go back to the Titans game. They're doing naked boots on almost every single pass play. We go to this game. It's a lot of 11 personnel passes and 12 personnel passes and the 13 personnel shot play to Ashton Dulin of all people.
You're locked in. Ashton Dulin looks like a viable starting receiver.
Yeah. Dulin's great. Dulin's awesome, but he's a special teamer that can fill in. Yeah.
I underestimated him. Like I know we've seen him play, but like he rose to the occasion, and like that's when like I think you have to credit obviously the staff, you have to credit obviously Ashton Dulin, and then you probably have to credit Daniel Jones a little bit in there too, you talk about quarterbacks that make the most of their playmakers, and like the fact that Ashton Dulin looked really good yesterday. I get it, it's this Raiders secondary, all this kind of stuff. Still, I mean, like he had some plays where he took some big hits as well. Like he was incredible.
Yeah. And so it's just everything is just working on offense. And I struggle to see where, like, again, the Rams game was probably the best example of how you can get after them, which is just absolutely kill them in the trenches with great front 4 play and then have an attacking zone coverage behind them. But how many teams are capable of doing that? And even then, the Colts nearly put up 34 on the Rams with that thing. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, I will say this. At home this year, I don't think anyone's going to slow down this offense. This offense is just going to be insane at home all season long.
I think part of that is, obviously being in a dome, I think is like probably a big help. Like Jones, I think Jones's arm has actually been better than I've given it credit for. Now he does struggle on some of the ones, just the long area yard throws, which is like, you're going to take a couple of those each game. If you hit them, they don't have to be a staple of your offense the way it was last year. It probably shouldn't be, because I don't think that it might've looked cool, but it didn't contribute to wins. But when you get into those later games, and I'm sure we can talk about this, just with the Colts looking like a potential playoff team, a probable playoff team, is like what that looks like. Because I think that is a factor with Daniel Jones, is about being able to play in a dome like that. But yeah, I just don't see a way, if everyone stays healthy. I think there's some people that contribute to this team in a massive way. I think Tyler Warren, that's a guy, if he stays healthy, he's just the glue guy, where it's like, he's credible in the run game. He makes such a difference. He's also credible in the pass game, where he's like, there are some plays. I mean, there was a play versus Tennessee where they basically played 3 buzz to it, where the safety's rotating down and basically creates this massive window for Alec Pierce. And it's like, that's the type of stuff that it was literally the reverse of that, where they were pushing coverage away from the tight ends because they know that Mo Alley Cox and Drew Ogletree aren't like a legitimate receiving threat. So they're making you defend every blade of grass, and it's really, really tough to stop.
Yeah, I mean, heck, the Doolin big play in this past game came because they were in 13 personnel and they had a sail concept with Warren running a deep corner underneath the vertical ball to Doolin. And the deep safety abandoned Doolin completely and came down to cover Warren and double Warren on the corner route because Warren has this just gravity about him right now. He's the leading tight end receiver in the NFL.
He's the leading. I think he leads the Colts in targets, I would guess.
Yeah,
I think
it has to. Him or Pittman have to lead the Colts in targets at this point. So, yeah, it's just an offense that's going to be sustainable. And then flipping to the defense, I don't think they're going to be as good as the offense by any means this season. They just have too many holes and not the same amount of like ways to beat you and consistency. But I think the one thing that's going to stick with them all year is they're going to be competitive. They're going to make their tackles in the open field, and they're going to take the ball away. So as long as the Colts offense can get to their 30 points like they've been doing, or their high 20s even, because I'm not even going to say that you have to
I don't think 30s is like, yeah,
30s are great, but like high 20s, whatever it is, right? Like can keep this just moving the ball forward every single week. Like this defense doesn't need to be perfect. Just keep taking the ball away, being opportunistic, getting the ball back to the offense, and forcing field goals when you can. And I think with the way that Lou Anarumo throws in these changeups, and also with the guys they do have in Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum, and I mean, I think Franklin had his best game of the year on Sunday as well. Yeah. I think that they're going to be able to do that. So I think this Colts team is going to be in the running for like a top seed in the AFC. Like, again, we got to see like the really tough teams that are coming up. They have big games against the Chiefs. They have the 49ers. They have the Steelers, like some good teams coming up. But as of right now, there's no reason to think the Colts can't win any of those games. They are a well-oiled machine right now.
Yeah, I think like I know there's a lot of like Colts contender talk right now, and I always try and temper my expectations because things can move in a hurry in the National Football League. The way I think about it, and it's not like I don't want to be like the rain on the parade guy. Like I'm not trying to be that guy. But like right now, the Colts have a 2-game lead on the division. We'll see what happens on Monday Night Football. But like things can change, and I don't see this as like a totally falling off type of situation. But you know, I mean, they have played who they played, and I don't think the strength of schedule is like they've won convincingly. Like they have told you that we are much better than these teams. I just think that like it's very hard to be a team that earns the Super Bowl contender talk in October, especially with no previous playoff pedigree. Like if you want to say that about Josh Allen and his, like that team has been to the playoffs year after year after year. Like that, they're going to be in the contender talk. The Colts really don't have that. They're just playing lights out football right now, and I just want to see it continue. And before I'm ready to say all that kind of stuff, but like, man, it's hard to believe how it wouldn't. Like they're just playing incredibly in a way that doesn't make you feel fluky. Like, yeah, they had the leverage penalty, but that was also, it wasn't necessarily luck more than it was strategy at that point.
And honestly, they were the better. They went to the red zone 6 times in that game. Like they moved the ball at will.
They didn't punt the game. So it's like,
so it's like, it's not like, you know, like that. If they would have lost the game, it would have been, oh, they lost the game, they should have won. They just ended up winning at the end of it. So yeah, I mean, look, they'll lose some games this year. They're not going to win out at this point. They'll lose a couple games. They'll have a couple duds for sure. But I mean, look, they got to go 500 the rest of the way to be a 10-win team right now. I think we can say they're probably going to be a 10+ win team unless injuries pile up. And I think things feel good. I mean, look, I will say this as someone who has covered the Colts since 2018. I've seen playoff teams in Indy. I get nervous every single weekend, typically. I didn't really have any fears on Sunday whatsoever. I went into that game confident that they were going to get back on track. Yeah. I mean, look, it came back. The anxiety came in a little bit after the first 2 drives of the game for both teams because I was like, oh, man, this might be a letdown game. But I really never had a doubt in my mind that they were going to win this game, and they won it handedly. And I don't think I could ever really say that about a Colts team. This Colts team just feels different. They feel mature. They feel professional. They feel ready for the moment. And you know, again, even with the Rivers and Luck teams that went to the playoffs, I was always like, oh, man, like, I don't know if they can really compete with the Mahomes or the Bills type teams. But this Colts team just feels different in a sense where I think they can give these teams their best shot. And I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
And we'll see how the roster shapes up, especially with, you know, obviously injuries. But I think this is the one time you look at the deadline and you're like, what are the Colts going to do? Because obviously the trade deadline is not like the baseball trade deadline. It's not like, you all looking for there's buyers and there's sellers, but the players that you're buying and you're selling are not like game-changing guys. But can they go and find a guy that's going to, you know, maybe potentially not see less than, 5-6 weeks on the roster, whatever it is. I know there's some big names. I don't necessarily see that happening, but like if you can find a corner to play good football opposite Charvarius Ward, it makes this defense a lot tougher to defend. And I think the other part too, obviously, that we all know, and I was telling this to Zach off air, is like the stories about the pass rush, because everyone's really been worried about the pass rush. It's been so much about Latu, but like I think they're really struggling to find guys to win one-on-one matchups when the protection plan is pretty simple. Let's get a double on Buckner, and then let's chip Latu, and then it's pretty much dead from there. And like that's where you have guys like Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, Kwity Paye that have to win their one-on-one matchups when you're back there. And I think if you can find a guy that potentially is there, I doubt it, but if you can find it, that would make such a difference for this defense.
Yeah, for sure. There's still some areas they can improve and be better, but overall, I mean, look, the Colts are sitting at plus 74 point differential through 5 games. Yeah. Number 2 offense in the league, number 6 defense, number 13.
This is one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, it's one of the best teams in the NFL, and I don't think this is a fluke. I think this is a good, competitive team that feels different this year, feel mature, feel professional, and they feel ready for the moment. And we're excited to cover it here as people who have covered the Colts the last couple of years. It's exciting to see. So, we're excited about the Colts going forward, and it's going to be fun breaking all this down. But we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day. The NFL season is finally here, so if your next listen, get a double dose of Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of NFL espresso to start your day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, at ZachHicks2, and at Colts Film Room, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or listen to your podcast. We love you guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.